many of the students who come to the school, they think, hey, I'm going to come here and I'm going to learn tactics, techniques, and how to fight. And you do learn a lot of that. But the greatest thing you learn in Ranger School is really about yourself, right? Because you get pushed to your maximum extent. And you learn through that experience, how far can you go? How much can you endure? And what do you have existing inside of you that you can tap into and leverage to be able to move you beyond that adversity that you're dealing with? And I will tell you, I mean, I went to Ranger School a long time ago. And you realize, like, there's nothing that you would go through in life that is going to be like what you experience in Ranger School. 61 days. And if you think about it, I was talking to Ranger students because we just picked up a class this past Sunday. That's uncommon. Like, how many people just wake up and want to do hard stuff or put themselves in a position to where they make that choice to do that? Not many people in our society does that, right? But I'll tell you, you are already part of that small population who wants to be better than they are. The sheer nature that you're at this school means a lot. There's less than 1% of our society that either have served in our military or are serving right now. Think about that. Less than 1%. You're already in a category by yourselves, right? And I think your motto is character above all. Yeah, absolutely. What brought you here is character, right? I like to say talent's like a race car with no steering wheel. You can be a talented individual, but that's only going to take you so far if you don't have the character to be the platform to continue to move that forward. And the character is the way you think. The way you think, the way you behave, the way you act, the habits that you create for yourself, the good habits, right? It's how you see the people around you and, hey, do those people elevate you or do they hold you back from being better than you are? And then you holding those same people accountable for high standards, high character, commitment, and all these other good things, right, that we know are necessary to help our society remain what it is and our country remain as strong as it is. It starts now. Matter of fact, it started before you got here, but it needs to be continually refined while you're here. And the good thing is, your teammates to your left and your right, you will gain energy from them. Right? And I know sometimes they'll frustrate you, right? That's what people do. But you got to work beyond that, right? Like I was telling the group last night, play above the noise. And so what I want to do today is just talk about a couple things, but I want to leave more time on the backside, really just to hear from you, get your questions. Like, you know, the cadet leader said, I've been doing this for a long time, 24 years, and I have absolutely had an amazing career. And I'll tell you, as a young leader, Lieutenant Captain, 82nd Airborne Division, had the privilege of serving under Lieutenant General retired Caldwell, right, your president. And, you know, one of the things in being able to improve yourself and be who you are is not just what you have inside of you, but it's also looking at others who emulate that type of behavior and mindset that, you know, or demonstrate the one that you want to emulate. And I got to watch, as a young captain, a division commander not only be present in the environment, but have presence through his engagement. And there's a big difference. Present is just being in the physical space. Presence is actually having impact on the people that you have around you, right? And he was able to do that through engaging with young leaders, right? Here's a 2-star general that had no issues reaching down, talking to you young company commanders, first sergeants, right, at the tip of the spear. And at the end of the day, what I didn't realize and truly understand then, but I fully understand now, it was leadership. And leadership, he understood, was constant. It was about connecting with people, and that's how you build trust. It was about being the example, right? Do as I do, not as I say, kind of thing. And why I wanted to come here is because I know this program in this school, because of the leader that you have leading it, it's a pretty darn good program, right? And I know the stats for, junior military colleges, you guys are number one, so that's good, right? But like Medal of Honor Colonel Ralph Puckett says to me a couple times, hey, be happy but never satisfied, right? Pat yourselves on the back and say, yep, hey, we win Ranger Challenge competitions, we're number one school, right, against our competitors. But at the end of the day, how do you continue to remain number one? And sometimes people get comfortable and complacent. Next thing you know, they're trailing, okay? And so just talk a little bit. Hey, 3 things, and I got probably groups of 3s that you'll hear me talk about. Listen, learn, and then lead. And I tell this to every young cadet corps that I talk to include every infantry basic officer leader course that I speak with during week 5 of IBOLIC. And I touch them well before they come to Ranger School. And so IBOLIC is 19 weeks, and so I touch them in week 5, so they got 14 weeks to kind of get their stuff straight. So when they come over to our organization, they're going to thrive and excel. And so listen, that starts now, right? And I've noticed that there's a lot of people that you talk to sometimes, they listen to respond versus listen to understand. Bless you. And if there's someone talking to you and like you're ready, you can kind of see people wanting to say something. Now just calm down, attentively listen, right? Truly understand what they're saying, process it, analyze it, and then come up with a well thought out response that's going to contribute and add value to how they're thinking. That's how people grow together. That's how teammates solve complex problems. And so you got to listen. And right now, that's listening to your cadre, right? There's a wealth of knowledge based on experience, character, and some other things that you will be able to tap into. And I would highly advise you to ask these men and women who have either served or just been a steward of our society for so many years. Ask them the hard questions. And it's not that you're going to take their life and, basically map it to yours and do the same thing, but it at least gives you options and ideas, and then you tie that in with your own personality and talents that could move you forward. So listen to understand. As you become for the folks getting ready to go into the Army, and I tell, young lieutenants this, listen to understand your boss's intent, right? Same thing with the teacher. What's the requirement? What are we asking you to do? We're asking you to write 800 words, or we're asking you to write 3 pages. That's a big difference at the end of the day, right? Listen to understand intent. Because one of the mission command principles, we got 6 of them, for a commander is to provide clear guidance and intent. And then subordinates to exercise discipline initiative. But you can't exercise discipline initiative, or you can, right? But to exercise it right, you need to understand what you're being asked to do. And so do that. Listen to your non-commissioned officers, right? Same thing as kind of listen to your cadre here. Because you as a young lieutenant, right, in any military formation that you're going to go into, any service, that non-commissioned officer has been there day one, but ultimately they've been in the military longer than you. And so they have experience in the military, experience about the organization, experience and connection with the people within that organization. And so they are going to be the people that you are working through to make things happen. But if you go in with this hubris and, hey, I'm the officer in charge, right, and you don't listen, you don't value what they say, then you're going to lose a critical piece of your formation's ultimate effectiveness. So listen to understand your commander's intent. and listen to your non-commissioned officers, right? And all of this is transferable into this environment right here. The next one is learn. Learn as much as you can. I would offer to you that becoming a voracious reader right now, avid reader, whatever you want to use, is critically important to not just your ability to thrive in this environment, but your continued advancement and competitiveness in our world, right? It starts with competence and knowledge. And what you're not going to do is, you're not going to find all that stuff on social media, right, or the internet. Like, pick up a book, read it, and grow a passion for reading. Like, one, it's healthy. Two, it's good for you. And so learn as much as you can. Being a technical expert is also about learning and understanding your craft. So if you're in some type of organization here, whether it be sport or music or arts or whatever the case may be, how much do you know about that? Or are you just residing on your talents and ability and the small little knowledge, space that you have? Or do you study the history of it? Do you study other people's practice of it? Do you study the origin of it? Do you study different methods and ways and everything else, right? And we're in a world where things are moving really fast, right, because of modernization, technology, and some other things. And so learn as much as you can, because that's going to help you become better at doing what you're doing, right? As you join your organization, in the military, I'll speak from the Army side, infantry, they got tactical SOPs, right? And that's how the unit is organized. That's how it trains. That's how it fights. That's the stuff that it carries, right? And you got to understand that. And what I tell young leaders is, most times, sometimes you get lucky and walk into a formation and you're put right into a leadership position, either platoon leader, company commander, etc. Other times, you may spend a little bit of time on staff. And some people see that as evil. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to do any staff time. I just want to go into command. Well, don't see that as punishment. Have a positive attitude and see it as an opportunity. Because what that does for you is it now gives you time, right, to be able to read, observe, understand everything, and then start to build your strategy and plan. And so when you do get down there, you have the relevance of the environment and the people and how they operate and what some of their limitations are, what the strengths are. It just makes you better prepared to go in and do what you do. So, I know a lot of people don't like staff. I'm one of them. But, I've grown over the years to appreciate what it allows me to be able to do to be better prepared for what I'm getting ready to go into. And then the last one is lead, right? And the 3 C's in the Army is character, competence, and commitment. And so you got to lead in character. That is the bedrock in your moral code. That's how people see you. That's how you build trust, or people isolate you because they don't want to be a part of the bad behavior, the mindset, right? The negative behavior that you have, the negative mindset that you have, right? Like, character is the bedrock of everything we do. That's why we got the Army values in our institution. That is all about character. And character is not just about doing what's right versus wrong. Character is also about attitude. How you think, I believe, is really how you act. Where do you spend your time? What do you spend your energy on? There's only 24 hours in a day. How do you use those 24 hours? Outside of what the school has scheduled for you, right? Because, you got your schedule, right? There's PT, you got classes. But outside of that, if you had a day to where the school didn't have anything on you, and maybe that's a weekend for you, maybe that's an off day, what does your schedule look like? What does it consist of? Who do you link in with during that time? Or you just kind of stay to yourself. And that's okay too. I'm a loner, right? but are you doing things that's going to help you grow mentally, physically, emotionally, etc.? Because your growth will be able to help grow others, right? It's a good saying, leaders grow leaders. And so if you spend that time on the off season or during halftime or when you're not in the game to better yourself intellectually, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all these things, when you do join a team or get around others, then you bring value to them. But it has to be a constant growth cycle that you're going through. And then you also got to be able to adapt, right? Many of us have grown up and things don't go the way we planned it, right? In the infantry, no plan survives first contact because the enemy has a vote, right? The terrain may not change, but we may not have accounted for everything. But I can guarantee you the enemy is not going to do everything we want him to do. We can plan and strategize and red team and, think about what he would do if we do something, action, reaction, counteraction, and all this other good stuff. But at the end of the day, that's a thinking person. And those conditions on the ground are going to change. It's the same thing in this environment. It's the same thing in the world and society when you plan. But are you ready to deal with and overcome that adversity when that happens? Are you prepared for it? Have you practiced? Or do you operate under the law of assumption? Well, I show up and I assume everything's going to go the way I planned it. That's an option, right? Probably not a good one, all right? And so character is much more than that. There's a good saying Lou Holtz has. I don't know if anybody knows this group here, knows Lou Holtz, great coach, right? Coached Notre Dame for a very long time. He has a book called Winning Every Day. I recommend it to young leaders, right? It's pretty short read, which is good for me. I'm part of South Carolina education system. So the good thing about that, he says, ability is what you're capable of doing. Think about that. Like your abilities is your capability. Like you can do certain things because you got the knowledge or the talents or the skills to do that. He said motivation determines what you do. Like you got to be motivated, right? You got to have energy to propel you forward to actually take action on something that you want to take part in or do. He said, but attitude determines how well you do it, which is, in my opinion, the most powerful statement in that whole passage, if you will. Attitude determines how well you do it. And I've watched people, come to work and whatever. They see it as a job, or they think about the boss, or they think about the teammate that they don't want to be around, or they think about something that happened yesterday and they bring that into today, and it just affects them for the rest of the day. Like, I can't be around people like that. And are you that person, or can you compartmentalize pretty well? Can you see that incident that took place or whatever happened and then see it for what it is, okay, deal with it, and then move beyond that, right? Because there's a difference between your mood and your attitude. Your mood can be altered, right? I can say something to you, you can think about that, and you'd be like, oh man, that changed the way I see the world, that changed the way I think about him, her, whatever the case may be. But your attitude is your character, it's your makeup. It's the strength and resolve that you've built over time to be able to handle things well and then be positive about it, right? I'm a big football guy, so I play college football, so I read a lot of college stuff. I read a lot of Harvard Business Review, because when I look at the military, it's a business at the end of the day. But then from the mindset in the sports world, it's a team. And so I don't just read military history and tactics and operations and stuff like that. I try to pull from other things that would help me be able to lead in this environment better and differently, right? And there's so many different aspects that you could be able to pull from and people that you can pull from. There's things in the military that's associated with, artist and musician that you could be able to use. So pick your flavor, whatever you're passionate about. It's like, hey, how do I take some of that, right, and then use it, bless you, in my space? And so E plus R equal O is Urban Meyer's little, I guess, science. The event plus your response equals the outcome. He says you can't control the event and you can't control the outcome, but you can control your response. That's a true statement, right? Again, it goes back to what do you spend your energy on? Control the controllables, right? You can't control the boss. You just need to execute what he says, right? You can't control your teammates, right? You can influence them through your behaviors, through your interaction with them. And then if it gets to a point, well, just separate yourself. Move out of the space before you do something crazy, right? That you'll regret, get you in trouble, and all this other good stuff, all right? Lead with humility. I talked about a little bit about that earlier, right? Being an officer is a privilege and an honor. And if you look at leading at any level as, hey, I'm entitled this because I've gone through all these schools and I have a degree and I got commissioned and all that other good stuff, you're looking at it through the wrong lens, right? Yeah, you may have earned it to be a young leader of others, right? You may deserve it, but that's not how you look at it. You look at them as a responsibility, right? Because the American people entrust in us that we're going to take care of their kids at the end of the day. If any of you have brothers, sisters in the military, like, you want to sleep well at night knowing that that person is in a good, positive environment, right? They're not being harassed, they're not being bullied, right? And all this other good stuff. And so you got to think about that. And that goes back to, hey, do you listen to what your folks are saying? Do you maintain situational awareness at all times to kind of see things and anticipate when friction is going to happen and bad things are going to happen? And then place yourself at the point of friction, or leverage someone else, right? Put somebody between you and that problem, right? Maybe your senior non-commissioned officer or another trusted agent, to be able to look into that, which now still gives you time and space to do other things, right? And if you're the authority, you also don't want to be solving the crime and then having to be the judge over it at the end of the day, right? So you got to give yourself a little bit of space as a leader. And so lead with authenticity. And it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. And I think it's easy to do if you see yourself as a human being and you see others as a human being. There's a good book, Leadership in Self-Deception. I think the Harbinger Institute wrote it. And the essence of the book is, hey, see people as human beings and not as objects. Your race doesn't matter, your gender doesn't matter, your sexual preference doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. Why? Because we're actually the same people at the end of the day. One, we're human beings, and we're all children of God, right? And if you see people as human beings who have the same issues that you do, right? They get up, they got to brush their teeth. Maybe they don't, but they're supposed to, right? They got the same family issues. They got kids, right, et cetera. They got bills, right? They're paying the same gas prices, all this other good stuff. They're just like us. Every last one of us is the same, And one of the things, our Secretary of the Army just came out with her 6 priorities several months ago. And she talked about, leaders are responsible for building and maintaining a positive climate, building and maintaining a positive culture. How do you do that? Well, 1, you got to be present. 2, you got to listen. 3, you got to be engaging. You got to engage with your people, and you have to be engaging. They got to be able to feel comfortable and trust you to be able to bring you something to let you know that, hey, things are really going well, and then there's a couple of things that ain't going so well, right? But that's you in the authenticity and you interacting with people and not kind of isolating yourself as this, king, because none of us as leaders are crowned, right? Okay? And so just think about those things right there. And I tell you these things because all of these challenges I'm talking about, whether you come in the military or you don't, right? There's hardware and there's software. Hardware that's the easy part, right? It's about systems management, figuring out systems, putting processes in place and all this other good stuff. But the software is the people, right? That's where the headache comes in. That's where the stress comes in. That's where the complexity comes in that you will have to work through every day. And if you think that's just a military problem, well, evidently you haven't lived in the world long enough, right? And you're going to see that stuff. All right, listen, learn, lead. Last thing I'll talk about, and then I'll turn it over to you, and it really kind of goes back into everything that I've talked about: hunger, humility, and intellect. And I talked a lot about humility. If I was asked, hey, what's your purpose? I don't put nobody on the spot. What's your purpose? Why are you up in the morning with other people here? That purpose is going to give you that intrinsic energy, right? Or you're one of those people that require extrinsic motivation. If somebody else on you, like, hey, you do it. Okay. That's what leaders do. It starts with you. If you don't bring the same level of energy and commitment, or even greater to a team, and you don't get that extrinsic motivation, it's probably less of the energy to the team. It's really energy. When you get the wrong attitude, I talk about like just hey, you can just enough. And everything you go into, you put 100% toward it. And I just tell you, like, start to do that now. Create habits for yourself right now. 24 hours a day. The challenge you is when you don't have a schedule, make a schedule. What is that consist of? Because that will allow you, one, a plan to put in place, two, take action on it, and be able to adapt it over time. Nothing's going to stay the same. Anything I was interested in when I was a young man, stuff was changed over time. Right. I'll stop there. Go fall asleep. All right. Questions? Balance.
Good morning, sir. I'm Taylor from Louisville, Georgia. I was wondering, it seems like you're very well read. And how do you go about selecting where do you find like a schedule? Do you have a few of those, or if you do get one, how do you have determine whether it's a good thing to do? And what you're reading?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But I do a mixture of think about technology is, you got books, right? You also got audiobooks. So I take advantage of both. For me, I try to read every night before I go to bed. Sometimes it don't work that way. I'm getting in from work and try to do. But I was reading a book. I started reading the book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Walker. I can't remember his first name. In the book about 8 hours sleep, he really explains it all. So one thing that in my own life to try to get sleep at 4:30 most days, 5 o'clock I do this. So that means I go to like at 9. Right? It's like I'm not gonna get so at 6, 7. It's like, oh man. So I kind of decompress. I think a lot. Right? On my own. So when I leave the office, I drive home, not listening to music or anything. Just kind of reflect on the day. Right? And typically do something. I get my little rule. They need sleep aid, sleep. Take sleep aid now. leadership. It's about increasing capacity to lead differently at the end of the day. And talking to the girls today in this room, we got 4 generations in this room. And we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion all the time. Diversity teams. And one of the things that we don't talk about is the generational diversity that we have in our army and in our society. And so, what does a guy like General Caldwell, okay, who's in the boomer generation, communicate with person who's a Gen Zer? Right? That's 4 generations. How do we communicate? And not just what I say. What do I say to have influence on you? See it and appreciating it, acknowledging it, and doing something about it. That's what influence is about. Okay? And we have to think about that. And so I realize this space the opposition. Like I'm not a guy or anything like that. There's a lot of stuff going on with technological advancements, our army's undergoing modernization, our doctrine is transforming. We just came 2 decades of counterinsurgency operations, and now we're transitioning into large-scale combat operations. If you look at what's going on in Ukraine and right now, there's a lot of lessons being taken from that event. For a very long time, in the Middle East, a lot of how you fight and how they organize and adapt the battlefield, we didn't really know that. Okay? Think about China, other competitors, they don't really know. It's not like they have their doctrine online and all this other good stuff. So we're seeing a lot around, I believe, learning a lot. And at the same time, trying to do all these things from a technological standpoint. So your answer is, based on what you do, I'll tell you, start this like as you read and you got to find time to be able to do that stuff. Like in the morning for me, it's prayer, read affirmations, for about 15, 20 minutes, something like that, maybe 3 over. It kind of gets the day started, right? For me to work out, that's my time. I work out people, that's a good thing. Select your path as a commander, like, hey, I get select to go with my commander, or myself, because, again, for me, I make time, right? And the day, my day, first, so at any point in time, anybody who, if it's not a calendar, anybody got free access to talk to, hey, sir, just want to ask you something, or just want to tell you something. That happens often. And so between the hours of, I guess, like 9 to 17, 1800, just moving in and out, I'm out of the office doing something. So I'm always doing something. I don't have time to really do this thing. Sometimes I'll close my door and I'll tell them, hey, put a block on the calendar. I close my door and I get to do something. But most of my reflection time is I'm just by myself, right? And really about like how you building things for the next upcoming. And do you forecast? Right? You just look about one day, the lucky is about 2 weeks, right? So I can look at my calendar for the next 2 weeks and start to see things and backwards plan. Now, some practices are more robust than others, right? So, and that answer. So time of the day better, and why book reading doesn't matter. When you learn, some people learn better, and some people learn information better.
Morning, sir. Oh, from Georgia.
grandfather served. I'm a football player, right? Played the high school and the college to play football. But I knew because my uncles would come home every now and then from the military. I didn't know how to play military. I did join junior ROTC when I was in high school. I tell people because talk about my injuries and combat arms and the numbers were not that high and other things. And my story is, hey, nobody convinced me to go to combat arms and be an infantryman. Right? I had some great models that I talked about that I looked at and was like, man, I want to be that guy. And the first person for me in high school in junior ROTC, by the name of Major the Vietnam vet, first battalion shoulder, you qualify CID, this is the uniform, so PDUs, with giant boots and with great stars, right? I mean, uniform, and he just looked professional. He called cadence, voice inflection, right, interaction with the students, like he was invested in our growth environment, right? Just he shine boots, right? I mean, he had classes on shining, right? Marching and all. That's where I started. Again, his love
SM State Georgia. My question is, as somebody who not been commissioning, what qualities do you look for in NCO?
Qualities I look for in NCO. Oh, man. Now, Andrew, right? Andrew has two sides. And location and time. Right? When you use Andrew matters, right? So you don't want to do is talk and calls on stage. Okay, so you got on your thing. Right? So what you said wrong, I think. So I look for an non-commissioned officer who is a technical expert. Because the things they teach you those things from day one, they continue to do those things, right? So you need an expert at you need to be an expert at tactics, right? Formation. You need to be a master of people, right? Because you work with that process, you knew how it felt when a young leader or NGO would take care of you and pay attention to your needs and welfare and health and everything else. So you take that role as an NGO, the connection to that, and that connection over time, and have officers accountable for putting the right processes, things, and system in place to be able to take care of our young people in our army. Right? And give us the guidance. NCO trained officers, like, everything I know is because of some key competition officers that I had of having days and taking time and investing in about planning formation, understanding tactics, considering things that go into operational planning and some other things. And so there's a big one, and technical expert is another one, and also adaptability, right? Not just look for that, those things, just look at people, period. Right? You coachable, teachable, you adaptable. I believe anybody who's not coachable or teachable, you think you can figure it out, and you won't put yourself in place, man. Right? The environment's going to be ever changing. If you don't continue to understand everything on you and then see yourself not for where you're at, but where you could be, to develop the mindset, behavior, actions, to kind of get yourself there. It's not about yourself, it's about bringing others with you and motivation. Maybe selfish. That's what it is. How many values is pretty keen. I love. It's constantly young and people want to ride it. And I always talk about values. It's so interesting. Hey, what are your values? And like, it's all over the place. Like, man, public service, personal courage, integrity. That's not hard. It's not just any. Get a household with those type of attributes that when you join the army and then you join an officer, that's like the rule for you, right? Yeah. Right. One more.
Good morning, sir. Hello. Academy scholar from Massachusetts. My question goes back to what you said about listening to others. Given a situation when you're required to make the final call, how do you know to trust yourself versus the opinion of others?
Yeah. Yeah. From perspective, comes from understanding or knowing that people know what they're talking about. Right? About an NGO. There's certain things that I'll ask you, like, you're asking me, hey, how do I put a weapon in operation, conduct an operation, check, or do stoppage? You don't look at the colonel. You look at the sergeant, five. That lieutenant colonel talk. Here, I'm listening to you. I know you know what you're talking on time. In Army, that's not mission command. And you gotta give you flexibility, but flexibility is earned through your performance, consistent character. You prove yourself as a reliable, dependable, competent teammate, and people will have out and notice you. It's like, hey, I know how to do this. I'll do the best today. The 10 principle. And I like you got rules, right? So when we all forget, if we play sports, people that have top third and are really people, they're big first. Oh, I want him on my team. I want her on my team. Right? They never stay sideline long. Why? Because they had already demonstrated that they had talent, character, energy, and perseverance, and all this other positive factors they are. They could help us win. Do that. We first. There's another group. But that group is selected specifically for a certain position. Why? You can't do football. You can't play baseball. You don't play baseball stuff. And you can't ball. You won't be a quarterback. You'll be a wide receiver. Like whatever the case may be. And then you had those people at the end of the day that think about them. They don't sideline. It's a top third in our society and in our military. You recognize who those people are. You go back to your trust. Hey, I'm that top third. Implicitly. I know they can every single time. In fact, we're going to be thinking about it by using it. That's how far they are. Right? They're moving the needle. They don't put their there because they prove to be good. Right? Top and middle group. Bottom group, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how we could put them in that they that doing. And may not be in the organization. That's okay. The same kid that didn't get picked their last season, he just has something more passionate to do. And they may not be an athlete. That person is probably a doctor. Probably an engineer. Because they have love for together and doing other things in sports. But then as a people, just hey, they're in the right position. That's what leaders get paid to do in resource allocation. We allocate resources appropriately to get maximum effects, right? Maintain a competitive advantage in a highly competitive world. So, hey, seeing you all, I'm proud of you, and I tell every young man, thank you for being here, and thank you for wanting to sign up. Thank you for wanting to be a good steward of our society. There's a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot going on in our society right now. Continue to promote the way, continue to have character, right? And